I want to begin by thanking all of you for the work that you do every single day to help keep our financial system safe and strong. Your work is a job that requires you to work well beyond the normal hours of duty. And many of you devote almost your lives to the cause of protecting our systems, ensuring that we maintain the security and safety of our networks. And I want to start by thanking you for the work that you do, without which we cannot do what we do. Colleagues, what's the number one asset of a central bank?
Reputation.
I hear people, I hear reputation. They're all very important assets, but the number one asset, what is that? It depends, information, it depends on where you look and from whence you look, your vantage point. The number one asset of a central bank is trust. Trust. T-R-U-S-T, trust. Now, if I'm sitting inside a central bank, I will say the number one asset would be people. But when you think about what we do globally, when you look at the macro level, when you look at how our work touches and concerns every sector of society and every strata of society and people at all levels, the number one asset of a central bank is trust. If I ask any central bank governor, large or small, what keeps you up at night? But I will tell you what keeps many of us up at night, because we talk about it regularly when we meet. For any central bank, I'm almost certain, without fear of contradiction, that cybersecurity will find itself in the top 3 of things that keep you up at night. Things that are top of mind for a central bank governor, large and small. And there are many issues that central banks deal with on a daily basis. Many issues. What's going on in the markets, what the Fed doing, what's happening with the monetary policy, what the government is going to do or not do, all of those things. Cybersecurity is right up there. And I say this to emphasize the criticality of cybersecurity. In fact, Madam Christine Lagarde, President of the European Central Bank, says this: cybersecurity is no longer a side issue. It is a core pillar of central banking. The words of President Lagarde, who of course is the former managing director of the International Monetary Fund. And so I say to you this morning, the criticality of what you do and the criticality of cybersecurity, which is what I'm going to focus on for my little few remarks, cannot be overemphasized. I saw a statistic that intrigued me and frankly had me taken aback. Over the last decade, cybercrime has more than tripled from around, according to Cybersecurity Ventures, $3 trillion in 2014 to $9.5 trillion in 2024 last year. And at the current pace, cybersecurity, the cost of cybersecurity, cybercrime to the global economy is expected to exceed $10.5 trillion this year. Now, when we speak about the costs of cybercrime, we're speaking about things like stolen data, financial theft, reputational risk, regulatory fines, business disruption. All of those things count in the cost. $10.5 trillion estimated this year. But what is more, if cybercrime were an economy, check this out. If cybercrime were an economy, it would be ranked number 3 in the world. It would be the 3rd largest economy in the world, only behind the United States of America and China. Wow. 3rd largest economy, cybercrime. In fact, cybercrime is more lucrative than the illicit drug trade or narcotics trade. Little wonder then, given the profits in that economy, that wicked economy, that there is so much participants. And let's face it, the numbers are growing, not getting smaller. Colleagues, I say this morning, obviously, these numbers intrigue me as an economist, but to put in context the size, the magnitude of the challenge that we face. The magnitude of the challenge that we face, the criticality of cybersecurity and the work that you do. And so in the limited time I have at my disposal, I want to offer 3 imperatives, key messages. I'm no cybersecurity expert, I will tell you that. But from my vantage point and my reflections, here are the 3 things I would say to you. Number 1, we have to get the basics right. This might sound trite, this might sound obvious, but I'm told that 80% of all attacks are against known threats. Known threats. So before we get to the unknowns, make sure we have the border secure when it comes to the known threats. That's fundamental. That means, colleagues, we have to protect critical infrastructure. Every central bank has determined what that looks like in your central bank. Certainly, we would think of the payment system because of its wider network implications for the functioning of the economy, the payment system. We will think of the reserves management framework and the system that undergoes a reserves management. We will think of our data warehouse and all of our data, because as a central bank, data is so vital to what we do. For monetary policy, for other policy, for advice, we have to protect our data. So we must identify and protect all critical infrastructure. And colleagues, I say this morning because I'm sure many of you would lament that you wish you had more resources. Lyle tells me that from time to time, maybe more than from time to time. And he's not wrong. More resources. We need more people, we need more software, we need more. And we are spending, and we continue to invest. Let me say invest, not spend. But the reality is that we all have budget constraints. So in the context of limited budgets, we must make sure that our focus is not on bells and whistles, but on the fundamentals to protect our critical infrastructure and to make sure we get the basics right. In other words, sometimes a good Toyota Corolla will get you there if you can't afford a Cadillac or a Lamborghini. You might take history with me on that, but I'm going somewhere with this. I'm making a simple point. Secondly, in terms of getting the basics right, we have to make sure that we are practicing very strong cyber hygiene. Cyber hygiene. Let's face it, our people, our staff, are the first line in defense to protect our system. But also, very often, the data show the weakest line of our defense. And therefore, we have to continually build a strong culture of cyber hygiene across our central banks. And I want to commend our team, Lyle and the team here, for making it a high point of focus. Every time we have a town hall, right now we do town halls on a monthly basis, every town hall meeting that we have in this bank, there is a segment on cybersecurity by MISD. One of the team members presents, reminds us. In addition, from time to time, there are exercises, including at Christmas time and at other seasonal moments, when we are vulnerable for gifts and certain awards and certain things. And it's very interesting sometimes what they find. So we have to protect by ensuring we have strong cyber hygiene. The second imperative, I would say, so the first is get the basics right. And there are other things I could mention there, but I'm not the expert and you know it better than I'm. So I'm going to move on. The second is we have to prepare for the eventuality of an attack. Because, as is often said by you, it is not so much if, it is when. According to John Chambers, the former CEO of Cisco, there are two types of institutions. Those that have been hacked and those who do not know that they have been hacked. So which one are you? Which organization are you? Because let's face it, if you've been hacked and you don't know you've been hacked, you're in an even more perilous position than those who know they have been hacked. There is no shame in acknowledging that we have been hacked. It is an acknowledgement of a reality and a commitment to do the very best we can to protect our systems. Because as we have established, your work and what you do touches and concerns macroeconomic stability, smooth payment systems functioning, monetary policy, financial stability, but also, very important, trust, which I've established is our most important asset. And so we have to prepare ourselves for the real prospect of being hacked, as much as we do everything in our power to prevent it. In this regard, I want to commend the Central Bank of Aruba. We had Central Bank Governors meeting a couple weeks ago in St. Martin, and I was very pleased to hear from my colleague, governor there, what you're doing with penetration testing on a regular basis to really establish. Aruba, where are you? Where's Aruba? Yeah, what you're doing there on a regular basis to continue to probe and to really prove your defenses and to, of course, strengthen what you do. I think that's important. There's no room for complacency in this business. So it's a lot of work, it's a lot of effort. You have to continually do it, but I want to thank you for what you're doing there. And I want to say to you, in that regard, because we have to expect at some point a potential hack, even as we work hard to prevent it, we have to have a plan. We have to have a plan. Mark Carney, the current Canadian Prime Minister and former Bank of Canada governor, says it this way. He always says, plan beats no plan. Mark has, Prime Minister Carney, has gone through a lot of crisis, of course, as Governor of Bank of Canada, Governor of Bank of England, now as Prime Minister of Canada. He always says, plan beats no plan. So the question this morning is, what is our plan to deal with the possibility of a disruption, so that we not only minimize a disruption, but we minimize downtime that can come from a disruption? There's some people who say no system is unhackable, if that's a word. And therefore, how do we plan and prepare for that possibility? I also want to observe that given our climate vulnerability, and we are now in the hurricane season, we have also to prepare not just for cyber attacks and so on, but we also have to prepare for climatic events that could render our systems inoperable. How do we minimize downtime in those seasons or in those times so that we minimize the impact on the payment system, on the financial system, on the macroeconomy? Those are things that we have to plan for so that we are prepared for. And finally, so get the basics right, plan and prepare for a disruption. The third would be effective collaboration and cooperation. Effective collaboration and cooperation. If you think about it, the global economy is becoming increasingly digital. There's no turning back on that reality. So we have to be prepared for more digital tools and also more digital disruption and also the prospects that come with that. AI presents a wonderful opportunity, but also some serious threats. And I can tell you one of the biggest concerns of central banks and central bank governance are deepfakes. Deepfakes. The idea that somebody could fake the voice of a governor, for example, and use that to proclaim or misproclaim monetary policy on which the markets may act is a very real concern and fear of central banks. So because this work, this enterprise is well beyond the border of natural borders, because cybersecurity is national security, is regional security, is global security, because it goes well beyond central banks, we have to work together. And as someone has said, cybersecurity is a team sport. And it really is. It's a team sport. All of us have to work together in our individual central banks, but across central banks to collaborate to ensure that we minimize the risk. So for example, we were very pleased at ECCB to help initiate the work that led, the decision that led to the establishment of our information security group under the Committee of Central Bank Governors. And by the way, that committee is working very well. The head of the committee, a colleague from Aruba, presented a couple weeks ago. We were very pleased with the report and the work of that committee. That needs to continue. And one of the things we did, not just did we set up the committee, but we, more importantly, the MOU that we signed among our central banks to share information. And that was very important because what we did not want is for us to be suffering in silence. A key part of this fight is for us to share intelligence assessments, risk assessments, and to share attacks, information on attacks, so that we protect ourselves by having that information. And by the way, we extend the same principle and the same approach to our licensees, our commercial banks, when through our technology standard and the particular guidelines that flow from that, how they must report cyber events and how they must share with each other so that we minimize the risk of contagion when and if and when, and it's not if, when such situations arise. And by the way, I should add one thing there. CARICOM Impacts, which is the CARICOM Crime and Security Agency, so they have offices in Trinidad and Barbados, is very keen to work with our central banks in the area of cybersecurity. They have a cyber expert there, I think his name is Dale, and they want to partner with us to do things like sharing intelligence assessments, risk assessments, and to ensure that we work together. And the central bank governors endorsed an engagement at the appropriate level to ensure that we can strengthen that regional cooperation on this most important issue. So let me conclude. On behalf of the entire team ECCB, I welcome all of you to the Central Bank and to St. Kitts and Nevis. We expect that you will have a wonderful engagement over the next 3 days. Again, get the basics right, prepare and plan for a disruption, and pursue effective collaboration and cooperation. God bless you in your efforts, and may He crown them with tremendous success. Thank you very much.